Gotta be honest with you guys, I've been wrestling with this for a while now. Neural DSP plugins, they all sound really amazing, right? Tons of features, they look incredible, the tones are top notch, but there's this feel thing, right? Am I the only one with this plugin? It may just be me, but it's almost like the response of the notes and the sounds when you play it feels slightly artificial to me. It's actually quite hard to explain, but it's just like the notes aren't blooming the way they would with some other modelers or a tube amp. And when I play it, it kind of feels slightly disconnected. So the notes are disconnected from my fingers. Is it just me, or am I just going completely crazy? And that's why today we are diving deep into the recently released Neural DSP Morgan Amp Suite. The whole point of this plugin is that it promises to deliver those harmonically rich, touch-sensitive tones that Morgan made famous. But will it deliver on that promise? And most importantly, will it feel right? I don't know. Let's check it out. Okay guys, let's fire this baby up. And just before we do that, in terms of signal chain, I'm using my Jet JS480 straight into my audio interface. And then I've got the Morgan Amp Suite loaded up into a Reaper session. And that's it. As always with my videos, no post effects, no messing about with the sound. This is what it sounds like when you download this plugin. So no monkey business. First things first, obviously the Morgan Amp Suite gives you 3 distinct amps to choose from: the AC20, the PR12, and the SW50R. So starting from the AC20, you go from the smallest kind of amp to the biggest amp. Obviously the biggest amp is the SW50, and that's the one where you're going to get, I imagine, higher headroom, slightly cleaner sound, and more flexibility. As always with Neural DSP, we also get a killer suite of effects. Pre-amp, we have a nicely designed compressor, then we have 2 overdrives, and I can already imagine that one is more of a transparent overdrive and one is slightly more distortion. So overdrive 1 has a drive, level, and tone setting. Overdrive 2 has the addition of a gain, a level, bass, and treble. So those you can also stack one after the other, so it's really, really cool. Then finally, going along with that kind of lo-fi vintagey sound, you also have one of my favorite things, which is a tremolo. So you've got rate, depth, and level. So very, very cool. Post amp, again, you get appropriate pedals. In this case, you have a very nice delay with loads of functions. So you've got ping pong or on or off. You have mix, the tape drive, the width of the delay, tap tempo, the usual high quality delay from Neural DSP, and finally a reverb. Just to note, the second amp, the PR12, I believe, also has an inbuilt reverb, so you can play around with both the pedal and the reverb on board the amp. So that's pretty cool. As always with Neural DSP, you then also have a really flexible cab section. You have the cabs here, which are very, very good looking. You have, as always, 2 mics on the cab to choose from, and there's a serious amount of microphones you can choose. So dynamic on off axis, dynamic 409, 421, condensers, ribbons, etc. You can also load your own IR, which is what a lot of people will do as well if you don't like this. And you can also, as always, change the position of the microphones as such, the mic level, whether you're panning it right or left, which is really handy, and the really cool room send, which gives you a slightly more in the room sound. It just adds a little more air to the sound. It makes it slightly less dry, which I always prefer. So I'm currently on the default setting here, and let's just start out with the AC20, and let's just hear what that sounds like. I'm in my neck pickup. Let's see. Wow, that sounds really good. Just straight out the gate. No messing about with anything. It just sounds really sparkly. Some nice high end to it. The kind of crunchy overdrive is there. There's, as I said, no pedals, nothing engaged at the moment. Sounds really, really good. Let's just quickly do something that I love doing with these smaller amps. Let's just dime the whole thing and see what happens. Let's just put cut, volume, power, everything up. You also have these little funky two switches, which I'm not sure what they do. I guess it's just cuts at various frequencies. Oh, and one thing I forgot to do, which I love on Neural DSP amps, is the doubler. Let's just switch that on, because I love the doubler. Okay, let's now go to the complete opposite. So let's go to the SW50R. So the biggest amp, I'm assuming this one will have the highest headroom, and it's got also a 3-band EQ, so you can play around with it a little more, as opposed to the AC20, which had no controls except for that cuts, I believe it's called. Yeah, the cuts. So let's try this out. Put a little reverb, although we do have some reverb and a little bit of delay and post effects, and that's about it. Let's put a little, actually, whilst we're here, let's put a little comp on that and go back to the amp and a little bit of maybe less bass and more treble. Let's put the volume up a little more. Let's put the level up and see what happens. You know what I want to do? I want to put a little distortion on this. Let's go with the overdrive. Let's get rid of the comp, go on the overdrive, put that there. Let's see what happens. Sounds pretty damn cool. Let's try the OD2, so the one I'm guessing the slightly higher gain. that is really cool. Very cool sounds, just with an overdrive in front. I really, really like that. Feels and sounds really great. Okay, finally, let's move on to the PR12s. Get rid of the distortion, go to the amp. And here, this is a kind of in between the other two. You have a 2-band EQ, so just bass and treble. Looks pretty cool. You have this dwell, which I'm not sure what that does. You, again, have a reverb on this, so we can play around with both the reverb pedal. Actually, let's do something. Let's take the reverb pedal out and just listen to the reverb of the amp. So it's nice that it has a kind of different vibe to the pedal. Very cool. Okay, let's see how far this one can go. And one thing I love doing with these, especially the smaller amps, is just giving that really lo-fi sound. So you crank up the mids, really cool, especially the mids. There's no 800 band here, but let's just try the best that we can with this. What's really cool about doing something like this on a really well-made amp sim, like the Morgan Amp Suite, is that you've got a smaller amp like that, and by having just an EQ in the system and pumping those mids up, you almost get that cocked wah sound out of it, and it sounds really, really cool, especially in a mix. That will cut through. It will make that guitar sound not clash with the bass and the drums, etc. It will just cut through really, really well, and this sounds fantastic. So another thing I wanted to check, and you know, Neural DSP always nails those effects, is the trem at the start. So there you go. Let's go with the trem. I'm back in the default settings. Let's go with the trem and see what that sounds like. So that trem is lush, very nice. The pulsating is just right. Really, really cool trem. And in the same way, if we talk just briefly about the reverb and the delay, they sound very, very nice. The reverb adds that amount of space and air that you need. The delay has a lot of options there and is really, really good. So overall with Neural DSP, the plugin is really clean, very easy to get along with. The usual addition of the gate is there, the transpose in case you want to either go up or down if you want to pretend you're a bass player is there. You have the doubler, which as I said before is really cool and I almost always have it on, and everything is very, very easy. The tuner works really, really well. The EQ is always a nice addition. Post effects, everything is there and very simple to use. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Now it's time, as usual with my videos, to talk pros and cons, whether it's worth buying and who should buy it, and also my final thoughts. Let's start with the pros and cons. One, on the pro side, as always with Neural DSP, the Morgan amp suite sounds absolutely fantastic. The amp models are incredibly accurate. Neural always does a really good job at getting to the essence of each of the amps that they kind of replicate, and especially in this case with the 3 different amps which have 3 individual characteristics and kind of quirks about them. They are doing a really good job at getting it bang on. The effects, as always again with Neural, they are really, really good. I love that overdrive. The post effects with the delay and reverb keeps it very simple, but that's exactly what is appropriate for those amps. And there is a lot of versatility there. So as you heard in some of those clips, you can go a little crazy stacking the overdrive and the distortion, and with the delay and reverb sounds really, really good. Third and final pro, this amp suite gives you something that in real life would be kind of expensive to have, a super versatile suite of amps that makes it so that you can go anything from sparkly clean to full fuzzy distortion. It covers the whole range. These Morgan amps are really, really good in covering everything, and this amp suite works super well to give you a full package in terms of tones. You can get everything in between, and they all sound equally as good as each other. So it's not the case where the kind of crunchy clean tones sound better than the distortion. They all sound really good. Now let's talk about the cons. And if you remember at the beginning of the video, I kind of introduced this with one of my major cons regarding all of Neural DSP plugins. I think this point is extremely pertinent with this plugin because the whole point of a Morgan amp, as they say on their webpage, it's supposed to be as much of an instrument as the guitar is. So that sensitivity, that connection between the guitar player and the amp has to be there and is a central theme in Morgan amps. So how does that translate into the plugin? I still feel that there is a slight reservation on the feel side. It's definitely not a deal breaker, and it certainly is a lot more touch sensitive. It connects a lot better than some of the other Neural DSP amps, but unfortunately it's still something that I notice. It's almost like in my head there's a little bit of latency between what I play and what I hear, and it's not the plugin, not the computer side, because it's very minimal. So it's not that, and the same settings are used with other plugins, and I don't get that feeling. So it's not that. It just feels like the response is a little less immediate, a little less intimate. It almost feels slightly too polished. It almost feels slightly too ready, mixed. I just wish, especially on this one, that it would be a little rough around the edges, something that I could get a little bit of, I don't know, emotion going. But as I said, maybe it's just my ears, maybe it's just me. Comment below, because, everything is personal, and that's why we're a community, because you can speak about these things. So let's move on to who should buy the Neural DSP Morgan suite, and is it worth buying? I think that if you are looking for those classic kind of boutique sounds, especially on the crunchy, fuzzy side of music, then you will love this plugin. Neural DSP does a lot of high gain stuff. So I really like that this plugin goes for those small heads. You almost get those small combo sounds that are really, really difficult to replicate correctly. So if that's something that you're in, those maybe lo-fi sounds, this is a great plugin for you. It's one of those that gives you a lot of variety. As I said, anything from really clean to full out distortion. But again, it's not a tight distortion. It's really, really fuzzy around the edges. It blooms, it goes in different directions. It's not something that you'll do, as I always say, Norwegian death metal with, because it's not that kind of sound. What's really cool about this plugin is that you get all those effects, the main effects that you will want with that kind of plugin, that genre of music that is applicable to this. So the delay and the reverb are really good. Again, the trem is okay. You get those overdrives to get into that higher gain territory, and you can stack them. There's a lot of flexibility there. So you get a whole range that for $120 is actually really, really good. And again, one of the beautiful things about this is that despite what YouTube guitar gurus want to tell you, very few of us will actually play or own 3 Morgan amps, right? It's just not feasible. We don't have the space, we don't have the room. So if that's something you want to try, go for this plugin, because sound quality is super, super good. Okay, wonderful people of the internet, it's now time, as always, for my final thoughts. So overall, as I said, I'm really happy I got this plugin. It's really what I was hoping it would be. The sounds are absolutely there. It sounds fantastic. As always, really easy to use. Your DSP always does the same thing, and it's a winning formula. So no problem there. It looks great, it sounds great, it gives you all the features that you want. I still have a slight reservation on that feel issue that I mentioned, and I think especially with this amp, it's a pity that it's still there. I don't know what it is. Again, leave me comments, but I still feel it. Maybe it's just something I need to get used to and pretend it's not there. But overall, I highly, highly recommend. If you are after something a little different and you are sick and tired of all these high gain plugins, to check this out, because Morgan are amazing amps, and this plugin really does it justice in terms of sound. As I always say, there's a free trial. Try it out. Go on the NeuroDSP website, try it out. If it's not for you, give it up. But for $120, I think you get an awful lot for your money here. Really great quality stuff. So generally, I'm very happy that I gave NeuroDSP another chance. And look, I'm sure they'll keep getting better at it. I think it's obvious that there's a growth stage here, and they're doing all the right things. So really, really good plugin. As always, guys, let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was useful for you. And please, please, please be nice to each other. Enjoy the world. It's a beautiful life out there. So be cool, play guitar, and be nice. See you later.